I'm Beth Adams. I'm an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up! And I'd like to show you this cute card, this thank you card, made with the Lotus Blossom Punch that you can get free during Celebration this month by placing a $50 order with me. For every $50 you get to select something from the Celebration brochure, and love it. It's the best time of the year. This one has a bookmark that just comes out, and let's get started. I'm using Lotus Blossoms, which is the stamp set that I knew I had to have from the Celebration. They call this a two-step stamp, but it's actually 3 steps, and this is backwards, but it's got one stamp labeled 1, 2, and 3. The one that's most sketchy with the least amount of stamping is 1. The one that's a solid is 3. And they did the same thing with the stems. One's kind of sketchy and one's more solid. I'm going to make a bookmark and put the Lotus Blossom stamp on this. This is 2 by 4.5. I'm going to go ahead and turn this into a bookmark by just pushing this into the scallop topper, tag topper punch. Easy as that. And since I am using a photopolymer stamp, I'm going to put my Stampin' Pierce mat under my paper. Paper keeps me from getting ink on my piercing mat, Stampin' Pierce mat, but I also get the cushion from the foam. I'm using Rich Razzleberry for my first layer, so the number 1 stamp, full strength, and I need to kind of move this, my head's kind of in the way. It's got a tab on these, so I know which way. It helps me line it up, so I'm pointing that tab straight up. And I'm putting that stamp as high up near the hole as I can. The number 2 stamp, the one that's kind of not solid but not just sketchy, is going to go the same direction, but I'm going to stamp it off. And the photopolymer makes it easy to line up if you're not having to move your head out of the way for the camera. And if I wanted to use the Rich Razzleberry for the 3rd layer, I could and just stamp off 2 times. But I like the look of having Pink Pirouette with this. So my 3rd layer is Pink Pirouette, and it's solid, not stamping off. Tab is still facing straight up, and I'm trying to line that up. I'm stamping my stem in Old Olive, and I'm using that sketchy one. The stem has kind of a flat end and a pointed end. I'm putting the pointed end up right between those petals. And the solid one I'm going to do the same way, but I am going to stamp off. Gorgeous. With the Stampin' Sponge, I'm just going to sponge around the edge of my bookmark. Got a little carried away over on this side, so I'll try and get a little carried away on the side and the bottom. There we go. Now I can put my ribbon in. It's about 5 inches, and I'm folding it in half, poking it in the hole that's already there, reaching through the hole, grabbing those ends and tugging, and that gives me my bookmark. My card base is 5.5 by 8.5, and it's scored at 4 1/4 for your standard card base. This is one of those card bases that I have on my chart, and we're just using it this way. And I'm using on the layers, I'm using the largest layer is Rich Razzleberry, and the next layer down, 5 3/4, 5 by 3 3/4, is going to be from the Typeset Designer Series paper. And Typeset Designer Series paper has several kinds of paper, but this particular sheet has font just a little bit different. I think I'm going to use this side. And I thought it just needed a little bit extra, so I am going to sponge just a little bit. I like to get, especially around the outside. And then I'm just going to put it centered on my next layer. You can use the adhesive of your choice. I'm using Fast Fuse. I have a piece of Very Vanilla cardstock that's 2 5/8 inch square, and that will fit right into the Fun Frames Textured Impressions folder. And I want to get this pretty centered on that shape. And I'll run this through the Big Shot. When it comes out of the Big Shot, you will have a shape that can be used on either side. But I don't know about you, but it just looks like it needs to be cut out, and it happens to work out perfectly to cut that little corner out with the 1/2 inch circle punch. And that, I was so happy to discover that, because it just seems to demand to be cut out, and it's not fussy cutting at all. I'm going to stamp my greeting in the bottom left corner. I want to be sure, we're going to be putting a ribbon in this corner, so I want to be sure and have these in the bottom right and the top left corners when I stamp, so those don't get covered up. So I'm going to just stamp thank you. And that's Rich Razzleberry. I'm going to tie a little tiny bow with this coordinating ribbon. This ribbon is a little bit stiffer than some of our ribbons, but it's so cute and it's so beautiful, and I love having our ribbons coordinate. And it does make a beautiful bow. So I'm just going to trim it short. And I'll put that on with a glue dot. So I have my sponged Designer Series paper on my Rich Razzleberry layer, and I'm going to put this on my card like so. But one of my customers, it's going to go on like that, but one of my customers was pointing out that if we just cut a slit in our card, we can have this pull out. Just going to mark 2 dots and removing my Stampin' Pierce mat so that I don't get that cut. I'm just going to line up those dots with the ruler and then use a blade. This is not a Stampin' Up! Product. If you wanted to make that fancy just a bit, you can punch a couple of holes at the ends. These long-necked punches are able to reach that. Love it. Going to stamp the inside greeting, and again, this is Rich Razzleberry. kindness you show has no end. And now I'm ready to assemble my card. I only want the adhesive around the outside of this card, so I'm running my fast fuse around the edge. There we go. It got a little gummed up. And so making sure my card inside is right side up, I'm going to layer this top layer in. Then I can put my bookmark in and use dimensionals for my fun square embellishment. And my card is done. Help support my business by stopping by BevAdams.com